Welcome in, everyone. We're diving deep today into the Book of Joy.
Oh, this is going to be good.
I know, right? I mean, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu together exploring joy.
Yeah, what a combo. A Buddhist monk and a Christian archbishop.
It just hooked me right away.
Yeah.
And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, you know?
No, not at all. They get real about life's struggles, that's for sure.
They really do. In fact, right off the bat, they make this distinction between happiness and joy.
Happiness being more fleeting, dependent on outside stuff.
Exactly. Like, you get a promotion, you're happy, but then what?
Exactly, it fades. Whereas joy, that's an inner state, more lasting.
Okay, so how do we tap into that? That's what I always struggle with. How to hold on to good feelings when things get rough.
Well, they talk about how happiness is often tied to those external things.
Yeah.
Like I said, the promotion, or you buy something you really wanted.
Right.
And then joy, they say it comes from within. Like having a sense of purpose, strong connections.
That makes sense.
You know, you're probably familiar with the idea of eudaimonic well-being.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Well, the book really digs into that. It suggests it's about flourishing, aligning your life with your values.
Not just chasing pleasure, basically.
Exactly. It's deeper than that.
Okay, I'm with them so far. But they don't sugarcoat things either.
You know, they lay out the obstacles to joy.
Yeah, those 8 big ones, right?
Yeah. Fear, stress, anger.
Sadness, despair, loneliness, envy, suffering. They hit them all.
The whole shebang. But they don't just list them. They offer ways to work through them.
That's the important part.
Absolutely. Take fear, for instance. The Dalai Lama talks about his exile from Tibet.
Oh, wow. That had to be terrifying.
Absolutely. Fear on a massive scale. Not just for himself, but for his people.
How did he even begin to cope with that?
Well, he talks about choosing compassion, even for those he saw as responsible for the suffering.
Really? That's incredible.
He saw their humanity, saw them as victims of their own ignorance.
So a shift in perspective.
Exactly. And that allowed him to let go of bitterness, focus on building a better future.
It wasn't about ignoring the fear, then...
No, it was about how he chose to respond to it.
Wow. So joy really an active choice, not just waiting for things to be good.
They argue that it is.
Yeah.
And that's where the 8 pillars of joy come in.
Okay, those are the tools, right? The
Yeah.
practical stuff.
Exactly. Things like perspective, humility, humor, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity.
Lots of familiar ideas in there, like gratitude.
That's a big one these days.
It is. So I'm curious, which pillar really stood out to you while working on this deep dive?
That's a good question. I think for me, it was perspective. You know, like with the Dalai Lama story about exile?
Yeah.
By shifting his perspective from anger and resentment to compassion and understanding, well, he found joy, even in the midst of immense suffering.
That's powerful, just changing how you look at things.
Totally. And that brings us to the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu themselves. Because they haven't just written about joy, they seem to live it.
That's what I want to know more about. What's their secret?
Well, that's what we'll uncover in part 2. Their stories of resilience, forgiveness, humor, they're pretty remarkable.
Okay, you've got me hooked. But how did they arrive at these ideas? Was it just intuition, or is there something more?
Well, get this. They actually weave in modern neuroscience and psychology to back up their teachings.
Wow, okay. Now I hear more about that. We'll be right back to unpack that fascinating world of neuroscience and joy after a quick... Actually, you know what? Let's just keep going.
So yeah, they tie in science. It's pretty cool.
Like hard science.
Yeah. For example, they talk about how practicing gratitude,
Okay.
it can actually change your brain structure.
I'm kidding. So it's not just like a feel-good thing.
It's not just in your head, so to speak.
I love it. I've tried those gratitude journals before.
Yeah.
I haven't quite stuck with it, though. Did they have any tips on making it a habit?
Well, Archbishop Tutu is a big believer in starting small. Like, just one thing you're grateful for each day.
Okay, I can manage that.
And the Dalai Lama, he emphasizes reflecting on the kindness of others. Really resonated with me.
Oh, yeah, focusing on the good stuff out there instead of what you're lacking.
Exactly. It shifts your whole focus.
Speaking of tough stuff, forgiveness. That's got to be one of the hardest ones, right?
It's up to.
Did they share any stories, strategies that really highlight that pillar?
Oh, yeah. Their stories are incredible. Like the Dalai Lama's experience with exile.
Right.
Choosing compassion over anger. I mean, he could have easily clung to resentment.
Totally understandable.
But he chose to see everyone's humanity. Even those who wronged him, he
Yeah,
felt.
that's next level forgiveness.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it ties right into humility too, doesn't it?
Yeah, seeing yourself as part of something bigger.
Letting go of ego And then you've got Archbishop Tutu leading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa.
Oh, wow. Facing those who committed atrocities during apartheid.
Heavy stuff. He had to help an entire nation heal and forgive.
Must have been so emotionally draining.
He talks about how holding on to anger, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Whoa, that's a powerful image.
It really is. He's saying it doesn't change the past, just keeps you trapped.
Forgiveness is the key, then.
He believes it is. It's the way to move forward with love and compassion.
And that's where joy can blossom.
He argues that's exactly it.
Okay, but how do you actually do it, especially when it feels impossible?
They both stress that forgiveness is a journey.
Not a switch you flip.
Right. It takes time. One technique they suggest is compassion meditation.
Oh, where you visualize sending love and kindness to those who hurt you.
That's the one.
Yeah,
It's tough, though.
it can be. Sometimes that anger, it just...
Oh, they get it. The Dalai Lama jokes about his own human moments when anger or frustration pops up.
I love that he can laugh at himself.
He says the key is noticing those feelings without judgment,
Okay.
and then gently you redirect your attention to compassion.
Easier said than done sometimes.
For sure. But they're all about self-compassion, too.
Not beating yourself up.
Exactly. And then they bring in the research showing how these practices actually benefit our brains.
Yeah, the science part.
Like compassion meditation. It can increase activity in areas of the brain linked to empathy, positive emotions.
So doing good literally makes you feel good.
It does. And then there's the connection between joy and humor, which both of them seem to have in spades.
Oh, yeah. Humor was one of the pillars, wasn't it?
It was. And they both have this playful energy. You can just feel it.
The Dalai Lama with his laughter, Archbishop Tutu with his mischievous side.
They find joy in the little things, it seems.
But how does humor actually, create joy?
Well, they say it helps us detach from our problems.
Take a step back.
Yeah, see things in a lighter way, not taking ourselves so seriously.
It's got to be good for stress reduction, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And it strengthens connections, too.
Sharing a laugh with someone.
Instant bond.
Universal language, humor.
They also emphasize finding humor in tough situations, not ignoring the pain.
Just finding those moments of lightness.
To help you through.
Like those silver linings, even when it's stormy.
Exactly. And, all these pillars, they're all connected.
They build on each other.
They do.
Yeah.
And their personal stories make it all so relatable.
Real people living these principles.
But here's the thing. It goes beyond personal transformation. The book talks about joy as a collective experience, too.
Okay, so it's not just about me being joyful.
It's about a more joyful world.
Can we really get there, though? With all the negativity out there?
They say we can. They acknowledge the suffering, the injustice.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore.
But they argue joy isn't about ignoring it. It's about staying hopeful and engaged.
Choosing to focus on the good, even when it's hard.
And connection is key, they say. That sense of interconnectedness.
Like we talked about with humility.
Exactly. Recognizing that, it leads to compassion and kindness.
So joy is contagious then?
They believe it is. When we cultivate it within ourselves,
it spreads outward.
like a ripple effect.
I like that image. Like smiling at a stranger, you might just change their whole day.
Small acts, big impact.
Yeah. So we don't wait for someone else to fix things. We start with ourselves.
And then share that joy with others.
The book gave some practical tips for that, right?
Oh, yeah. Mindful communication is a big one.
Listening with intention, speaking kindly.
Being present in those interactions.
So bad at that sometimes. Zoning out, getting distracted.
It happens. They talk about the power of service, too.
Giving back to the community.
Volunteering, supporting causes, just offering a helping hand.
Like generosity, but not just material things.
Time, energy, attention, it all counts. And generosity, they say, it benefits the giver, too.
It's not a zero-sum game, right?
Right. When we give, we experience joy ourselves.
It's true. Feels good to help.
And all these practices, they build a more joyful world.
Not some perfect utopia, but step by step.
Each act matters.
So we each have a role to play, then.
We do. And it starts with our own joy. Being grounded in that, we're more resilient.
We're compassionate, more inspired.
And that leads to action, to positive change.
Wow, this has been eye-opening. Joy is so much more than just a feeling.
It's a way of life, a choice.
A powerful choice.
One we make every day.
It really is. So if you had to sum up the book's key takeaways.
In a nutshell. Well, joy is this inner state, cultivated through things like gratitude, compassion, generosity. It's not about ignoring life's hardships.
It's about finding that hope, that engagement, even when it's tough.
And it's contagious. Choosing joy for ourselves, it creates a ripple effect.
Transforming communities, transforming the world.
That's the idea.
Beautifully put. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Book of Joy.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you all.
And remember, the journey towards joy continues. Be kind to yourselves. Put these principles into practice.
Watch as joy blossoms within you and then spreads out into the world.
Keep seeking, keep learning, and keep choosing joy. Okay, so we've covered personal joy, but how does that, scale up?
To a global level,
Yeah, a more joyful world. Is that even possible? I mean, with everything going on?
they say it is. They're not naive about it. The Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu, they know the world's full of suffering.
Right, you can't just ignore that.
But they say joy's not about ignoring it. It's about staying hopeful, engaged, even when it's tough.
So it's like choosing to focus on the good.
Even when it's hard, yeah. And they talk a lot about connection, like how we're all interconnected.
That ties back to humility, right?
It does, seeing ourselves as part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And they believe that when we get that, it leads to compassion, to kindness,
Okay.
and that joy, it's contagious.
Contagious.
Yeah, like when we're joyful ourselves, it radiates outwards, impacts those around us.
It's like that saying, smile at a stranger, change their day.
Exactly. Those small acts of kindness, they can create a ripple effect.
Okay, so we're not waiting for someone else to fix the world.
Nope, we start with ourselves.
Cultivate our own joy, then share it.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And the book has some practical tips, like mindful communication.
Well, I need to work on that.
We all do. It's about listening intentionally, speaking with kindness, being present in those interactions.
I zone out sometimes or get distracted.
Happens to the best of us. They also talk about service, contributing to your community,
Giving back.
volunteering, supporting causes, just helping someone out.
Generosity in action.
And they say generosity, it's not a zero-sum game. When we give, we get joy back.
It's like it's better to give than to receive.
Yeah, feels good to help. And all these practices, gratitude, compassion, generosity, forgiveness,
They all tie together.
they create a more joyful world,
Not a perfect world, but better.
step by step. And it starts with us.
Each of us has a role to play.
Exactly. And it all comes back to cultivating that inner joy. When we have that, we're more resilient, more compassionate.
And more likely to make a difference.
That's hope, anyway.
Well, this has been amazing. I feel like I get joy on a whole new level now.
That's more than just a feeling, right?
It's a way of being, a choice.
A powerful one.
It is.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts on the book? Key takeaways.
Well, joy is an inner state. We cultivate it through things like gratitude, compassion, generosity. It's not about pretending life's easy. It's about finding hope, staying engaged, even when things are tough.
Even when it's hard, yeah.
And it's contagious. Choosing joy for ourselves, it spreads outwards. Can even transform the world.
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
It is. But it's hopeful, I think.
It is. Well, listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Book of Joy.
It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
And remember, the journey toward joy, it's ongoing. Be kind to yourselves. Put these principles into practice. And until next time, keep seeking, keep learning.
And keep choosing joy.
See you all next time.